Here come the drums. Welcome to the Mark Peterson Show, and I am your host, Mark Anthony Peterson. This is the show where news and opinions and parapolitics are blended together from a blackish point of view. The title of today's show is Blackface: Why Mygen Kelly is About to Make $100 million. I know some of you heard the title of the show and you said, "Say what? Isn't Mygen Kelly in a lot of hot water right now?" Yes, she is. On October 23rd, 2018, former Fox News standout, now turned NBC morning host, Mygen Kelly made a very controversial statement. She said, quote, "You do get in trouble if you are a white person who puts on a black face for Halloween or a black person who puts on white face for Halloween. But when I was a kid, that was okay, just as long as you were dressing as a character." That statement has rippled across the internet and boomeranged back in her face. She is under fire, and as the recording of this show, many are saying she is going to lose that morning show and walk out of NBC with $69 million, which was the size of her contract. I know some of you are saying, wow, isn't NBC overreacting just a little bit? Canceling her show for a statement that said when she was a kid that basically people around her condoned being racist? Well, you got to realize Mygen Kelly, on top of her very low ratings in that time slot, has had several other controversial racial statements that put her out on the edge, ready to fall off a cliff. Kelly got into an exchange with people around Christmas and Santa Claus when she proclaimed that Jesus was a white man, as is Santa. She also mishandled a story where a Texas cop manhandled a young African-American girl when her reaction was the young girl was no saint. And if you saw that video, no one will want anyone's daughter to be manhandled the way that cop did to that young girl. But she could not sympathize with that young African-American girl, though she is one of the pillars in supporting feminism around the country and women's rights. So that put her square in the middle of this controversy with no one willing to give her benefit of the doubt. Some are saying she may not work again. I'm here to tell you the $70 million that she's going to walk out the door with is going to pale in comparison to the contract that she's going to get after this. What? Say what? Yes. Mygen Kelly is about to make a boatload of blackface money. Why would I say that? Well, though those in the media like Al Roker who are upset with her basically brushing off the bad taste for wearing blackface, the rest of the world loves blackface, condones it, puts it in so many of their celebrations that it's not even funny, and your media never reports it. But you're going to hear that in today's show, thanks to, let me give credit to the folks who dug up all this information, blackface.com. Yeah, the internet has everything, including a website called black-face.com. Look it up. You'll see that just about the entire planet celebrates blackface at the expense of black people. But let's run down a few of those examples. Before we do, let me get a swig of this peach tea. That's some good stuff. Okay, first, the Dutch. Yeah, you know, like the Dutch, like you see on Dutch Boy and the paint can and nice little innocent, cute kid. Well, they don't take that tack when it comes to dealing with black people. They have a Christmas celebration where they have a helper called Zwarte Piet, or if you translate it, Black Pete. Black Pete first appeared in 1850 in a book in Amsterdam written by a school teacher named Jan Shankman. Black Pete is said to be black because he was Moor and of Spanish descent. Now, what you got to realize by a lot of the European celebrations, they had a Santa-like figure who was the good guy, who gave you presents for being good, but he had a companion who was his running buddy who would come in and beat the hell out of kids when they wouldn't be good. And of course, that's where Black Pete gets his origin, right? He's the bad cop. He comes in, puts kids in baskets and hauls them off when they're not good to their parents. So the black guy is literally the bad cop in many of the Christmas celebrations around the world. And Black Pete is the center of the celebration in Amsterdam. It has come to light to many of the people in the country that this is an offensive display because parades are littered with adults and kids in blackface representing Black Pete, because the character has kind of morphed over time to become a friendly, gentler character, not one that bags up kids and carries them off, but more of a Santa's helper. You know, the guy that makes all the toys, gives it to Santa to put in his bag, doesn't get paid, kind of sounds like a slave. Yeah, that's what Black Pete is now. And he's beloved by people who aren't black, but want to wear a black face in order to show their love for him. And the people in the country aren't willing to give it up. They're using the same line that defenders of the Confederate flag use in this country. It's not hatred. It's our history and our heritage. Protests in the last few years have gotten larger and larger as the African population has pushed back against this blackface celebration. But in 2017, in November, at the beginning of one of these parades, the parade was surrounded by white nationalists who wanted to keep protesters from disrupting the parade. Now, that tells you how deep this runs. But it's not just with the Dutch. The Spanish, yes, they have their own celebration. For Balthazar, right? One of the three wise men or one of the three kings. One of them was from Africa. And to help us celebrate those three kings, people in Spain, yes, don blackface to help celebrate the fact that this wise guy came to give a present to Jesus. No, couldn't just leave that out, right? No, you have to have the blackface in order to make it authentic. There was a campaign launched by the Pan-African Center, which is located in Madrid, to try to end this celebration. So far, they've had no luck. President Trump has a big problem with Iran. But one thing he does not have a problem with, or hadn't had a problem with yet, is their New Year celebration, which takes place in March around the 20th or the 21st, where they celebrate a celebration called Nowruz. And it is referred to as the Haji Farez parade, or a sort of Santa Claus figure. And this guy, again, is black, of Spanish descent, and is Moor. And he's celebrated by everyone dressing up like him. The backstory on this guy, though he's morphed into more of a Santa Claus-like figure, is he's a slave. And he served his master by encouraging him to be jolly. Over time, the master got dropped. He stayed as a central figure and is now the Santa Claus type figure that gives out presents. So people dress up in blackface to celebrate. Now that I find that very interesting, that Iran would have a black Santa Claus and the rest of the world pretty much celebrates with the Santa that we see on the postcards. Nonetheless, the celebration have its share of pushback, and people do not want to give up the blackface celebration. Germany. In Germany, children go door to door pretending to be the wise men, celebrating the birth of Christ. We know where this is going, right? We know where this is going. One of the kids always dresses up in blackface to represent who? Yes, the wise man from Africa. Of course, there are those who are discouraging the blackface celebration of this character, but to date it has not stopped. You think this would be kind of limited to some of the European countries? No. Let's keep going. Japan. You know there's a band in Japan called the Gospel Rats, and they perform old Motown hits in blackface, dressed in the attire of the 60s bands that made those hits. And they have a freaking recording contract with Sony Music. Mexico has a character called Mimi Pinkin, and this is a fictional comic book character that appeared in the 1940s. The character is a little black boy who has the face that resembles a monkey. Kids dress in blackface to represent the character who's supposed to be dim-witted and playful. In 2005, a collection of Mimi Pinkin stamps was issued to commemorate the character by the Mexican government. Wow. Well, let's keep going. South Africa. They literally have a carnival called Coon Carnival, or Claps Claps. And this festival is an annual festival that takes place on January the 2nd in Cape Town, South Africa. Now realize it was not started by the blacks of South Africa. It was started by the controlling apartheid government, which was replaced by Nelson Mandela and the ANC. But to celebrate this Claps Claps, or just Claps, 13,000 people take to the streets garbed in bright colors and, you guessed it, blackface. Thailand. In Thailand, Dunkin' Donuts ran a campaign for its charcoal donuts. We don't have those here in the States. Charcoal donuts? Really? Charcoal donuts that featured a blackface Thai actress. When the Human Rights Watch group drew attention to the ad, the Dunkin' Donuts CEO in Thailand, Nadine Sahari, dismissed criticism as paranoid American thinking. Paranoid American thinking. Yeah, we should be able to wear blackface. That's just paranoid American racism. Let us have our own Thai racism. Let's keep going. Peru. There's a popular TV show called El Negro Mama, and it features a blackface actor portraying a black woman. The character has wild hair, bulging eyes, and wears silly clothing and is portrayed as a lazy, stupid, common criminal. Colombia has a celebration called Carnaval de Barranquilla, where women paint themselves in blackface and dress in red and white polka dot dresses of the Negrita. The costume was inspired by the brand of Ecuadorian detergent that was launched in the 1970s. The purpose of the carnival is to dress up as these black women in polka dot dresses to try to see if their husband can be seduced by a temptress, the black temptress. The guys do the same thing. They dress up in loud colors and blackface and have joined the celebration as well. So basically, they're furthering the myth of blacks as the temptress, the sexual athletes. And they dress up in the thousands in these costumes and go out and celebrate. I could literally go on and on all the way around the globe and show you every blackface celebration there is. Go to black-face.com and see it for yourself. Literally, all the way around the globe, nothing but blackface celebrations that are never brought to the mainstream press to show you the extent to which this level of mockery and denigration has permeated the cultures of almost every major country. We see it here, and we see it bubble up from time to time, but it's been suppressed. The Native American has the same sort of treatment, with caricatures, pictures and images used as team logos all around this country. And when it started to really get momentum in the late 80s, early 90s, you saw how quickly the story was shifted out of the media, out of sight, out of mind, until the Obama administration, where those sorts of images with places like the Washington Redskins were stripped of their ability to get service marks on such denigrating images. So, why do I think Megyn Kelly now is going to leave her job or get fired by NBC, and that's what they're saying they're going to do, and walk into an opportunity that's $100 million? Now, She just made $70 million, 4-year contract, $20 million a year. Why is she going to walk into a bigger one? Because everyone else that's done the exact same thing as her, some sort of racial incident, has walked right back into bigger opportunities. So basically there's a public display so that we can all look and feel good and say, oh yes. But then behind the scenes, those who don't care, or those who even are behind the use of these images in business, make sure that she's brought back in an even better role. Roseanne Barr, who compared a member of the Obama administration to a monkey and to ISIS. Just basically said if those two got together, that's what she would be. Claimed she didn't know the woman was a black woman when she made the statement. Lost her job on her show, The Roseanne Barr Show. Okay? Roseanne. All of us know the show. She was fired. Roseanne said the very next day she got 4 offers, one of which was better than the Roseanne show offer. And she was contemplating whether or not she'd take it. Does that sound like she was punished in any way? To be removed from one offer only to have 4 the next week, with one being better than the one you were forced out from. Let's switch over to a guy. Mel Gibson. Everybody remembers the July 2006 rant that he went on that was given to the media by the mother of his child, who had recorded him berating her and using racial slurs. He dropped more N-words than a West Coast rapper. I know you're thinking, well, what about East Coast rappers? No, you can't beat those guys. They've got a science to N-word inclusion in rap. So back to Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson, you would think this guy's not working anymore. No, Mel Gibson has been in more movies in the last 4 years than you can shake a stick at. The Edge of Darkness, The Expendables 3, Daddy's Home 2. And he's in 4 movies that are in the pipeline right now, including one called Airstrike. Doesn't sound like he got punished. Sounds like he's working more than ever, especially when you clean him up with movies like The Expendables and Daddy's Home 2, where he looks like a really nice guy again, right? How about our girl, Paula Deen? Wow. In 2013, she admitted to using the N-word. And I know you're thinking, man, that was an overreaction. Who hasn't used the N-word? That was what she said. Exactly. She said, why are you guys mad at me? Who hadn't used the N-word? But that wasn't the extent of what she was accused of doing. She tried to get one of her cooks to dress up like Aunt Jemima. She sympathized with slave-holding ancestors by saying it was horrible when they lost their slaves. And in her book, she longed to launch a burger called the Sambo Burger. Wow. One would think that that dinosaur would be buried after all of these statements and actions. But no. Paula Deen's back on TV in a show called Positively Paula on RFD TV. And if you live in the South, you hear her every day on the radio. Paula hadn't lost. She's winning. Launching restaurants on the radio, has a TV show again. Before you know it, Paula's going to be back on the major networks and as big and bad as ever. And what about Ted Danson? Yes, everybody remembers Ted Danson from Cheers. Well, yeah, the Cheers star appeared at the New York Friars Club roast in 1993 with his black girlfriend, Whoopi Goldberg, wearing blackface makeup and a tuxedo, and performed an offensive N-word filled comedy routine. Now, I don't have to tell you or even ask you if Ted Danson is still working, and if he's making more money than he made when he was the star of Cheers. The guy's continued to work every day since he left Cheers and every day after this incident. There was no backlash for blackface. Just temporary outrage, and he went right back to his life. Okay, I'm going to shock you with this one. Tom Hanks. Yes, the Oscar-winning actor who every liberal loves was caught in a 2004 school event where he and a friend donned blackface and wore stereotypical black clothing. Of course, for him, the outrage was kept to a minimum. But he said he was sorry and that the bit was horribly offensive. So as you can see, there's no real backlash from blackface. That's not going to stop Megyn Kelly from making money. What happened to Mygen Kelly was she had horribly low ratings and a huge contract, and NBC knew this was the perfect time to pile on and push her out. And they did that. But by doing that, they elevated her to a new level of recognition amongst a group of people who celebrate blackface. Mygen Kelly also has something else going for her. She's a victim now. She is the victim of a liberal media that targeted her. Because in the eyes of all the people who don't believe blackface is a bad thing, she didn't do anything wrong. And she apologized. So she is a victim now who, I don't know who her manager is or who her agents are. If she plays that correctly, she's going to end up with $100 million contract, probably talking about the same issues right after she starts her book that covers this all the way back to her hiring by NBC, of which she'll probably get a $10 million advance. Time for a little bit more tea. That's good stuff. I believe in second chances, and in some cases, third chances. And my beef is not even with Mygen Kelly. My beef is with the press, not even doing a little bit of research to put context into what she really said, because she was right. When she was a kid, she's around my age, blackface was okay. I grew up in the South, and I can tell you when I was a kid, blackface was not only okay, it was okayed by everyone in authority. Kids wore it to school for Halloween costumes from the time that I was in kindergarten all the way through high school. Back then, it was okay to have these sorts of views out in the open and in the public and to denigrate without any sort of empathy. So she was right. And the press only pinned it all on her like she was the first one and the only one to ever use blackface. I bet you dollars to donuts, half of the people in that boardroom making a decision to fire her have done the same thing. Roseanne Barr, yeah, she wore blackface. She's also dressed up as Hitler and made Jewish cookies that she put in the oven while dressed as Hitler. She did that before she got the Roseanne Barr show going again on ABC. You see what I'm trying to tell you? This is a game. The people in power do the exact same stuff. They won't tell you the context because they don't want people to wake up and realize what they're doing and what has been done. Guys, I'm starting to hear the drums. That means it's time for me to get out of here. Thank you for listening. This has been The Mark Peterson Show, and I am your host, Mark Anthony Peterson. Catch you next time.